Hey everyone, hey, Matt Walker here again. Walker time. This will be another episode 4. We got a firewood cutting and splitting expedition lined up. Good friend of mine, Kenny Williams. His dad has some property in pretty close by, about 20-30 minutes away. Got 3 oak trees that we're going to cut down that he wants out of the way, and so we're going to cut those. Excuse me. So behind me, we've got some chainsaws that we had. I grew up in the country, and steel chainsaws. I pretty much worked a chainsaw my entire life. Literally, when I was a little boy, I was around a chainsaw. I didn't personally start working the chainsaw till I was a little bit older, but it's because they can be dangerous. But you have to respond to it. But be responsible when you're working it. But incredible tools. I am very partial to the steel chainsaw, and they just, as far as the quality, they are a little bit more expensive, but the quality is incredible. Learned a lot from a lot of people over the years, and so I'll try to share those tips with you. And I've learned from pulpwood, cutters and haulers and people that do this stuff like all the time. I do this on the weekend. I'm a weekend warrior when it comes to this type of stuff, but I love it. I love doing it. It's great exercise. I used to split by hand when I was in high school and college, but the chainsaw, and then I have a hydraulic splitter as well that my Uncle Lamar owns. He lets me borrow, and just love doing this. So we're looking forward to it. So what I'm doing now is the prep work as far as sharpening the chains. Okay, so this piece right here, that I'm gonna take this plate off and we'll show it to you. This is called the bar, and obviously the bar lengths, the longer the bar length, the bigger engine motor that you have to have. So this is a smaller chainsaw, but it's a good general size. This is a 250. Now I think now still it's kind of changed their size. It might be like an 025 now, but this is a medium to great, and I think that is an 18-inch bar. So in other words, when you're cutting on a tree, you cut on one side, you get if you cut on both sides, you get up to 36 inches on the cut, 18 and 18. So the bigger the bar, or the longer the bar, the bigger engine that you need, the bigger motor, horsepower, so to speak. So this is, pretty sure this is a 20-inch bar, all right, and this is a 311. So if that's a 250, this is a 311, this is a bigger engine, and it's heavier. It's heavier, a lot of people, but I love, this is my chainsaw. I've had a 44, or a 440, and the new number is a 44, and we had a 24-inch bar, and that is a big chainsaw. I've seen some that are bigger. So people that come and cut wood, if you ever had to have a tree that was close to your house that was getting dangerous or something like that, and you had to hire it out, you see some people with huge, way longer chainsaws. So we're going to break these down. Most of them, I have a chainsaw sharpener hooked up, and we're going to kind of just show you the ins and outs of the chainsaw. And then when we show up on the job, I'll have my big trailer. I don't have the new floor on it yet. I have to do that later. But we show up on the job, we rock and roll, and we're ready to go, and we don't have to worry about, hopefully, Lord willing, that we don't have to worry about a chainsaw breaking down or not doing a very good job as far as you want a sharp chain constantly. And I'll show you and talk about when that chainsaw is not sharp anymore, what it looks like, and we'll get into that. All right, so there are my two chainsaws right here, and this is a common utility tool that comes with your chainsaw typically. And on one end you have a flat head. Now I've got others that have the star head for different implements. Maybe like a combi system, if you will, that your hedger, your weed eater, your edger, your pole saw, all those type of different implements might have a star head on this top. This is a flat head, screwdriver type top. So I used this right here. This is going to fit those bolts there. And I'm just going to go ahead and try to do it as I'm here. I've already broke them. I'll loosen them up. So if I finish taking these off, oops. And when you take this cover plate off, now you're exposed to the innards. Boy, I got to do some cleaning on that. You really want to try to keep that as clean as you can. So this is called your sprocket, and this will wear out over time. You can actually see some teeth marks there. This right here is your, I think they call it, I'm sorry, in the middle, your tensioner, that as far as how tight your chain is. And this right here is a great feature. You'll see me work that while I'm working a chainsaw. That's your brake. So if you flex that, you heard that click right there. You cannot roll that at all, and this disengages. So you'll see me work. I'm right-handed, so I'll have my left hand here, my right hand here as I'm working the saw. As soon as I get done with a cut, I'll flick my wrist forward to go ahead and engage that brake, because there's so many times that you get tired or you just get lackadaisical and you go to the next cut on the log, and this thing is still spinning rapidly. And this is, y'all, it's so sharp right here. I'm gonna sharpen some of my extra chains here, but it can come against your leg, and, you know, when you're not paying attention, and it can be dangerous. And so I've gotten in the habit over the years. I'll just engage that brake, and you'll hear it rev up on the motor. Yep, my sound effects are great. I realize that. And then when I get to the next cut, I'll grab and reach and disengage the brake. So I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna check these teeth. And so a good rule of thumb when you're checking the teeth right here, you can see on top of the bar, always need to be aimed away from the machine. That way you haven't, because trust me, I have put chains on backwards and you get to cutting and it's not cutting very good. And there's a reason. So these teeth, you can see how they're angled. This angle right here, see how it is angled away from the chainsaw on the top part. That tells you that you've put the chain on the correct way. All right, we're gonna check these chains out again. You can see, I see some metal right here in these teeth. Right there, let me zoom in. So I see some shiny metal. That means this chain's still pretty sharp. Doesn't need sharpening. But I'm gonna take it off and I'm gonna find one, and we're gonna go to this sharpener. You can buy these sharpeners different ways. There's all kinds of that are on the market. We've had this for years. I think we bought it from Harbor Freight. And you literally just put it on this, you cut it on, and that wheel, that grinding wheel gets to going. And you just get more of a machine, more accurate. The old school way, obviously, was the file. My grandfather, growing up as a boy, I saw him work that file. Well, the problem is if it's not accurate on all the teeth all the way around, your chainsaw will get to cutting one way or the other. It doesn't cut evenly. So this is a more accurate type of cut. And it's not probably not the best, but it's pretty dang good. And so when you first start cutting with a brand new chainsaw or, chain, the chips, the wood chips that come out from the wood are big. They're really big. And man, it's working great. And it's just like, what's the cliche, cutting a hot knife through butter. But as the chain becomes dull, and it will become dull, the more cutting you do, the wood chips, if you will, the sawdust becomes smaller, okay? So, and it's noticeable. And you'll start seeing some smoking, okay? Now this thing has an oiler. There is a gas element, and it's not straight gas, it is mix. All right, another little tip that I was taught, you always want your exhaust to be smoking. So if it calls for one of the little small mixes, and I'll show this to you later in the episode, maybe 1 per gallon, well, I actually do 1 per 3/4 of a gallon. Always err on the side of having a little bit too much oil mix in the gas, okay, in the 2-cycle part. You want it smoking, because I have erred on the other side, and we burned. It messed up the chainsaw. I can't remember the exact term, and so always err on putting too much oil in the mix. Okay, and that's for a weed eater. That's for anything, a blower that you have to mix oil in with the gas. Always err a little bit on putting too much oil in the mix. And then, so as you're working this chainsaw, it'll be from this perspective, and this chain starts to get dull. All right, you'll start to see this thing smoking, like when you stop in between cuts, and just this thing's so hot, okay, because it's dull, the friction there, and it'll just start smoking on its own from the chain, and the sawdust is a lot smaller. hey, change it out immediately. And so that's why I have extra chains over here. And I'll take a break. All right, I'll here is your oil and gas mix. You got a gas can. You got the plus, the little oil symbol. That's where you put your mix. And this is where you put your bar lube. Now, I do splurge a little bit, and I get the steel bar lube. I know it's more expensive, and if I'm in a jam, I'll get something thick, whatever, but I just always make sure I have enough bar lube, because what happens is as this thing, let me see if I can go ahead and just take it off for you and show you. These things right here will come, there's a pump that'll pump that bar lube and just feeds this chain as it's cutting to keep it fresh. So anyway. All right, so getting ready to sharpen this chain. I've kind of sorted my chains out. A couple of them need to be sharpened. A couple of them I had sharpened before, and I just checked it. Again, when that metal's still real shiny in those teeth, in the big teeth, and I'll show this to you, or have shown them to you already. But anyway, this one needs sharpening. This is for my smaller saw, the 250. And I'll just show you this little grind wheel that I showed you earlier. Here's the deal. I'm gonna probably get some spray paint, and I'll mark where I start. All right, you'll see a bunch of the yellow. My dad always used yellow or something that'll stand out. And then you work your way, because every other tooth works the other way. So I'll have to work this all the way around, and then I'll have to swap the angle. Okay, and I think we're cutting on like 30 degrees. Some people like 35, some people like 30. And be honest with you, I can't remember which one's better. I mean, I kind of alternate between the two, but I'll alternate this way, and then I'll do those other teeth that are angled the other way. And again, I'll do one, skip one, do the other one, skip one, do the other one, and so on. So there's two angles that you have to work, and then that chain will be sharp and brand new. You have to have a good sharp chain when you're cutting. Another quick story I'll tell you, earplugs. Some of my earlier videos, whenever I'm doing working with something that's loud, like a grinder, or this thing's not super loud, I'm gonna do it anyway, but shooting guns, anything like that, I use earplugs. Now I'm gonna tell a story. I was at Delta State playing football. I love Delta State. It was 3 great years. That's in Cleveland, Mississippi, in the Mississippi Delta, and loved it. Met some of the best people that I'll ever at Delta State. And I guess I'm glad that I transferred, because I ended up meeting my wife. Today is our anniversary, 19 years that we've been married, dated for 2.5 years. And I'll never forget that. But I remember it was my second year at Delta State, I believe, and I was taking be honest with you, took a science class. I'm not a big science guy. I like science, but I just wasn't super gifted in it. Math and geometry is more of I like to build things, obviously. But it was like a lot of football players took this class because it was an easier science class. I had to have the science. But I'm going to tell you, it was one of the best classes I ever took. And it was an older guy that taught the class. He liked to hunt. He liked to be the outside, the outdoors. He had my attention immediately. He was a great storyteller. He was a great teacher, and he related with his students. And one thing we did was hearing test. And he talked about hearing. And I grew up shooting guns my whole life, doing loud things, chainsaws, like I said earlier. And we did hearing test. And he said the little hairs in your ears, the cilia is what it's called. It grabs those sound waves and reverberates them off of your eardrum. Anything over 80 decibels, I believe it is, does irreversible damage to your hearing. So a lot of times, whenever you have something like you go to a loud concert, a rock concert, or just a concert in general, when the music is super crazy loud. With me, when I was little, we'd shoot guns, and my ears would ring for like an hour or two. And then whatever. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but I just killed however many cilia, and you do. I mean, it doesn't regenerate, okay? And so once you lose that hearing, and when he told me that, and we did, I still have good hearing, okay? I can't grow hair on the top of my head very well or anything, but I have really good eyesight still. That I'll be 44 years old, and on May the 4th in a couple of months, and I think it's March, so I know it is March the 13th. My bad, my anniversary. But I've got great hearing to this day because of him. because of that. And so when I go hunting, okay, I just buy these off of Amazon or whatever. Again, I try to buy local, but these little not styrofoam, what are they? These soft, cushiony earplugs. I just barely put them in my ears, okay, at first. And if I'm deer hunting, I can still hear everything. I can still hear the ambient noise out. But if I see a deer walk out and I think I'm going to shoot it, I'll just real quickly push it all the way in, and squeeze it off to protect my hearing. Excuse me. So this is not near as loud. I really don't need it. I am going to wear ear protection. But you'll see me with these earplugs. It's just a habit. I do not leave home without it because it was very frustrating for us. You can ask Anson, my brother. My dad, his hearing was bad. Anson's hearing is really bad right now because he had a hunting accident and no hearing protection, but also in the military or whatever. And he's got tinnitus really, really bad. And it was very frustrating when our dad you'd try to tell him something or talk to him, and he would be like, huh, and then cut you off. And I was just like, man, I want to try to protect that as long as I possibly can. So I'm going to get started here with sharpening this and kind of going through it and kind of get a feel for it. It's maintenance. It'll make your engine last longer. Also, if you don't keep a sharp chain, you can actually feel on these bars when you, of course it's going to pop off. I'll just take it off. If you thumb up and there's like it's a beveled edge, when that chain gets hot, it melts the top of this and it messes with your chain and your cut. And so you'll see a lot of, it's burred. I know I'm rubbing up like that and I can feel a little lip, so to speak, right here. And so these bars, it's older. You'll see, take that file, these older folks, and they'll get that burr off and it'll make the saw cut better. All right, and I'll do that before we cut. I'll get my file out. I've got one in that middle drawer there, and just kind of get rid of that burr. And so anyway, you just preventative maintenance, so to speak. So your hearing, your eyesight. I will wear eye protection, clear glasses I'm about to wear here, but also when I'm cutting a saw chip, keep it from flying in your eyes. But I also want to be able to, not for it to fog up, so be able to see. And I'll have boots on, I'll have pants, I'll have a long sleeve shirt. Even if it's 95, it's March, so it's not very warm at all. So that's one thing I'm excited about cutting tomorrow is it's not going to be very hot outside. But even if it's 90, 95 degrees, I want to protect my arms and everything. I'll wear good thick gloves on my hand with the chainsaw, working the chainsaw, but also when we work the splitter to keep splinters from getting into your hands, okay? And we're loading up the trailer. We'll load up the logs here and we'll bring it back here and then we'll split another day with the hydraulic splitter, which is a game changer. So anyway, we're gonna get started here on this next video. All right, we're gonna get started sharpening real quick, and obviously we'll hit the fast forward button for the YouTube video. And big shout out, thank you so much. I'm up to 20 subscribers now at this time. And but now I just like to have fun. I'm sharing this with my friends and different projects. Hopefully this can help you. Cutting fire. We love to burn a fire during the winter time. Here we have really mild winters, but when we're deer hunting or whatever, we come back. We really enjoy. We really don't burn. Well, we don't burn any fires in our house, but we love to burn one outside with family and friends are over and enjoying each other's company. So I've got my eye protection. I'll push these in just a second. I've got a lighter color, like a tan, that I was using on that trailer. And I'm just gonna squirt where I'm gonna start, and that'll kind of give me an indication. I can see the metal when it's shiny when it comes back around, but this gives me kind of a visual, and so it might be overkill. We're gonna get started. I'm gonna cut this on. Again, that's not loud at all. You'll hear some noise when I hit, when I'm working it. And again, when I'm working that tooth with that with this wheel, this grind wheel, I'm gonna kind of work almost like I'm sharpening a knife in a way, and I'm gonna work it. And sometimes I'll feel on the backside, if I feel that little bevel, that little lip on the backside of the tooth, I know I'm good. I go to the next one, okay? But I've done it so long I can kind of see it, and I'm just gonna get that metal shiny again is what I wanna do. When the teeth here, when that metal starts getting shorter and shorter and shorter from sharpening, how many times can you sharpen a bar when I have a freshly sharpened chain, okay, and I go to, you'll notice that the sawdust at the beginning, when the chain is freshly sharpened, is not as big. It's just barely bigger than when the chain gets dull. I'm telling you, a brand new chain, I'm talking about sawdust chunks are huge. It's obvious. So when you just sharpen your chain, you're out there and you make your first few cuts and your sawdust is like, man, that doesn't look anything different than when the chain is dull. Then you know it's probably time to go ahead and just throw that chain away, discard, get rid of that chain and go buy you a new one. So some people, 3-4 sharpenings probably, maybe more, okay, that you can get. Because a brand new chain nowadays is probably going to run you, obviously the longer the bar is going to be a little bit more expensive, but at least like $30, $35. They're not cheap. And so you want to try to save the life of that chain and extend it as long as possible. Now, if you're doing a big job like we are, we've got 3 trees that we're going to do, so we're going to be running for several hours. You need more than one chain, or you better have your sharpener on site. Well, I don't want my sharpener there because that costs, it takes time. It's going to take me 20 minutes, probably 15, 20 minutes to sharpen this one chain. And so that's time I'm out there on the site. I just want to be able to regas, rebar lube, throw a new chain on there, and then keep going. It saves you time. And so I've got 3 chains per saw at least, probably, whenever I have a big job. So let's get going. All right. This is a little bit, like I said, tan, marked real well. And that thing is shiny as all get out, so I'll move to the next one. Skip one. Go to the next one. All right, I'm back to the top, and so now I'm going to change the angle from this side. There's a nut on the bottom, really easy to loosen, and there's a little needle here that kind of tells me the angle, and I'll turn the angle to 30 degrees on this side. So I've got to do those other teeth that I had to skip every other one. Now I'll do those and work my way back around. So I tighten the nut. Really good and firm. I've still got my spray paint. I'll start on one side of it. So it's real easy to see the teeth that I didn't get to because they're not bright and shiny. The ones that I just sharpened the other way, they're bright and shiny. They stick out. I mean, they stand out easy to detect. So I'll do this real quick. All right, so basically I've done all of them, all the chains. Now I am worried about, I don't know if you can see this, these teeth. I don't know if they're as big. I don't have much longer on this chain, is what I'm saying. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. What I was just saying before I started sharpening, I'm going to keep an eye on this, on the sawdust. I'm literally, as I'm cutting, I'll show you, I'm using these teeth right here that are on the inside. If y'all can see that, these metal teeth here, they're there for a reason. And my grandfather used to tell me as a little boy, and I learned it as I got more experience working a chainsaw, let the chainsaw do the work. Quit trying to manhandle the chainsaw. And so I like this 311 because it is a little bit heavier, and I let the weight of the chainsaw. So I'll go in there with those teeth, and if the log is like this, I'm looking from a 2-dimensional aspect, I'll go in the teeth like this, and then I'll kind of let the saw just kind of work itself down, and then I'll grab it again with the teeth, work it down, teeth, work it down, and it falls off. As I'm doing that, and you could do it with one hand. I'll be doing that because the weight of the saw is on the you're using gravity to kind of cut through that saw. I don't manhandle it and grab it and all that kind of stuff. I'm letting the saw, again, as long as you have a good sharp chain, and I'll be watching the sawdust as it comes out periodically just to check it. and to see. And again, you're good for a tree, probably, depending on how big the tree is, obviously. So you don't have to check it like literally every single second, just every now and then. But I am worried about these teeth. They look small to me. I'm going to sharpen. I've got, I think, 2 more chains to sharpen for the bigger saw. Obviously, I'm not going to waste up space on this episode, on this video, but it's going to be the same process. So it's kind of boring, but it's very, very worth it, again, to maximize and be incredibly efficient with your time as you're out there in the field. You come in, you unload the wood when you have time, you sharpen them. Just like I do my lawnmower blades for my big zero turn. I've got 2 sets of blades for when I'm cutting grass. And so I'll get about 2, 3, maybe 4 cuts max, and then I'll switch those blades out on my lawnmower blade. And so they've got it. And I always sharpen the ones that I take off. I sharpen them then and there after I take them off. After I put the new ones on, and then I'll put those ones that I've just resharpened, I'll put them on the rack. And I just go ahead and try to stay ahead and get that done, because your grass cuts better, your lawnmower will cut better in the long term, because when it gets dull, it'll start to, it'll vibrate and it'll wear out those bearings, over time. And it just makes your lawnmower last longer. So again, this engine in this chainsaw is not cheap. And again, a brand new 311 today, I mean, you're probably talking about, I'm just guessing $400 or $500 easily, So it's worth taking care of your investment. But I'm glad I got it. There are limbs in the place that need cutting or cutting up. We'll take it and we'll burn it in the burn pile. So it's good exercise. You're getting outside, you're getting sunlight, and you're getting great. You're using this wood and for recreation around your house, for get-togethers or whatever. So it's just a lot of fun to do. All right, we'll move on to the next step. Woo! Walker time. We cut yesterday. We're loading today. About 40 minutes away from my house. That's one trailer. And let me tell you something. She's struggling. We're going to take our time driving back. About to load the rest of this. We're about to have 2 trailer fulls of firewood. Then we'll do some splitting. Might start a little bit today. Kenny Williams. We're at his dad's place. Cut 2 good old oak trees yesterday. Good old work. More to come. All right, walker time. We've got 2 trailer fulls. We just got to air up some tires a little bit, man. There was a lot of weight on there. Girls are drinking some beverages. And just for the record, that is water, I promise. It looks like not water, but anyway. Miss Hadley and Miss Maddie Reagan helping us out. Walker time. Ooh, we got it back right here. I'm telling you, walker time. Got another load coming in. That trailer, it's full of wood. And then this one is full of wood. We're unloading it right now. I got it back in the side of the shop.
We got walker time.
Walker time. That's Kenny Williams, baby. Hammer is with us as well. So, hammer time, Grant said. Splitter, loaded up. Woo, we got some big old logs here. We're unrolling and loading. More to come. I'll trim that video in a second. All right, we weren't lying. Had Maddie Reagan working the lever. We got through the stacking. So had this plan we were gonna go till dark, and I'm tired. We're tired, so we're gonna go to plan B and do it later. But we got it here, we got a little sweat going. Maddie's ready to do something else, and I am too. Y'all have a great Memorial Day weekend. Get active, enjoy your family, fellowship, and friends. Bye. Hey, Matt Walker here with Walker Time. Finally finishing up this episode. I actually forgot about it. Getting real busy. Back in the middle of March 15th, I believe. March 13th, I started sharpening the chainsaws. March 15th, we actually cut the wood, the trees, and hauled it here. And you also had that video of Maddie and I doing some splitting. There was a lot more splitting episodes than that. But we just kind of take our time, and then here's the cleaned up version. So I'll kind of show this to you here real quick. Yeah, so again, we've obviously cleaned it up. That right there is the key, folks. That's my uncle's hydraulic splitter. I highly recommend one of those. Pros and cons. Actually, I can have this, use this whenever I want to. But if you rent one, that's probably the cheaper way to go. But there's also a con to that. You rent it, you got to do it all that weekend, right? Or all at that one time. By having access to this whenever I want it, I could just do a little. I would go an hour, 2 hours maybe at a time and split this. And you saw that previous video earlier in this episode of us splitting that wood, and really works well. I've got two daughters. One normally works the lever on the hydraulic splitter. I'm the one actually doing the splitting, and the other one is stacking. That's the best, most efficient way to do it. And so that's a lot of wood. Wood racks are great to get up off the ground. And now this wood, since, it's early August right now. I think August 5th or 6th right now. But this wood has been put up and split since, for probably a couple months now. So it's, they call it seasoning. Basically, when you cut a tree, it's green, meaning it's still got a lot of moisture in the tree, and it doesn't burn very well. So after you cut it and split it, it dries out quicker. So it goes from green wood, quote unquote, to it seasons. It'll start to smell, and that's just that moisture getting out of there. But it smells great now. It doesn't have a bad smell at all. And so I made a makeshift rack underneath just to get it up off the ground a little bit. My good friend Kenny there recommended that idea, and it was a great idea, just to kind of maximize space using these I-beams as the end pieces for this wood rack. So that's one long run, and that's probably a cord of wood is 4 feet by 4 feet by 8 feet. And so I've got to think that's probably at least a cord of wood, maybe a cord and a half, maybe even two. And then we've got a second layer that's even taller and longer here. And then that's not even a half a cord right here. But these are my ugly pieces that have knots in them, things like that. Didn't stack well. I would just throw them off to the side and stack them on top or whatever, because you want your better, prettier pieces, if you will, down low so it stacks better so you don't waste space. But we love to have a fire. We got our deer skinning rack back here during deer season, ready for it. It's 97, probably 95 degrees right now, and it's almost 7 o'clock at night in the evening and late afternoon. And that's our fire pit. So looking forward to enjoying that wood. We never burn any fire inside, but just recommend it. It's great exercise. A lot of work now. It's a lot of work, but if you were to go to buy this wood, it's very expensive. People said I ought to sell it. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not worth it because it's a lot of work. I think a cord of wood probably goes for $300, $350. And I'll just be honest with you, to me, it's not worth selling. I'd rather just use it. I got close friends, family members, things like that. But it's one of those things you appreciate it after you've worked it. So wanted to finish up this episode. There's our fire pit. We've done some work here, ready to enjoy it. Trying to clean up, look like Sanford and Son back here. And also while changing the oil in the RAV4, the Toyota RAV4, that's my oldest daughter's driving this around. She only waited till she got about 3,000 miles over the oil change, but we're draining it out, about to change that oil. So I did an earlier episode, I know, on the truck. This is pretty much the same way. This oil filter is a little bit different. It's got a drop-in filter. But we might do another episode later at another time. Y'all have a great rest of the day.